Hello everyone, Mr. E here, and yes, indeed, it is time to indulge in one of my favorite exercises on this channel, ranking the power of the characters compared to each other. Who is the most powerful character class in Darktide? And I've done this 2 times before. The first time I did it, Zealot came out the victor, with Veteran following up, then Ogren, and then Psyker. My justification being, at the time, there was no such thing as Havoc, so we were encouraging or indulging in a hypothetical scenario where there was like a clutch situation and a bunch of enemies were on you, and obviously Zealots are king of clutches. Veterans aren't half bad at them, and Ogrens aren't bad either, but all things considered, that's how the rankings fell for that group. The second time around was after the Ogren rework, only about 3 months ago, and that time I started to incorporate more quantitative measurements such as their ability to clear hordes and kill bosses, and ultimately I put the Zealot on top again, with Ogren just behind him this time, Veteran in 3rd place, and Psyker in 4th. And now things have changed even further, so we have to revisit this exercise. This time around, we have something unprecedented. The Arbites, the 5th character class for Darktide, wow, I never thought I'd be able to say that, is now part of the roster. So we have to add this 5th character into the mix, and I think the expectations are that the Arbites will be pretty strong, near the top half for certain. But can you guess, viewers? I know that those of you who caught this live will be able to guess, but go down in the comments and leave a comment and let me know what order that you believe I'm going to rank these classes in. Just make the prediction, you know, you're on the honor system, and then on your way back up, if you didn't already, like the video, and of course subscribe to the channel. You love Darktide content, you love Mystery. Stick around for a little bit. It'll be a fun time. Even if you guess me, or even if you already saw this when it went live, I'm going to try my best to justify and elucidate my positions as much as possible. As I said previously, I just kind of went off my feelings and my gut instincts in the last sets of reviews, and this time I tried to provide a little bit more quantitative evidence to it. Now, this is, again, based on my personal player experience, so this is my ranking. You are welcome to disagree with me. The comments would be a great place for that, but I'm going to try my absolute best to explain why I gave the rankings I did. So, the rankings are going to be divided into categories. Each category will award an amount of points. The first 4 categories award 10 points each, and the last one, which is less important to the overall power level of the characters, awards 5 points. You can see those categories on your screen now. The first one is Horde Clear and Boss Killing. Each part of this will award 5 points, and these are very, very important factors for character power, especially in the current meta of the game. As you progress through the difficulties, both hordes get thicker and thick, and they also get more intense and more frequent, and bosses do the same. There's many more bosses on Havoc than there ever have been before, and the ability to knock out bosses, including captains with their shields and twins with their shields, that's a big, big deal in terms of player power. The second thing that affects player power is your survivability. Survivability is not just your toughness number. It's not how much toughness damage resistance you have. It's not how much regeneration you have. It's a combination of all that, plus your ability to evade, block, consume, completely nullify damage in any way, shape, or form. This includes bullet sliding, your speediness to evade melee attackers and keep them from ever being able to attack you, your ability to block, your ability to push, your ability to stagger enemies so they can't attack. All of that is survivability. Bonus points to you if you have abilities on your class that benefit more than just yourself and can make the whole team survive as well. Here, speaking of the whole team, we have to talk about the third factor, which is carry or solo potential. These are kind of wrapped up in each other, and I think this is maybe the biggest factor in determining your raw power as a character class. If you can solo carry a game with this class, chances are good that this is a very, very powerful class, right? There's definitely classes out there that are way better at soloing missions with no bot assistance, with no player assistance than other classes. If you look at just solo runs in general, it's a field that is generally dominated by 1 or 2 different classes, and then there's other classes that there you can count on one hand the number of times Havoc 40s have been soloed with them. So if your class fundamentally can carry much more than the lion's share of the enemy brunt on their shoulders, they are a powerful class. Some classes are great at assistance and kind of just being there, but there's other classes that are the absolute workhorses and can do many, many more times damage than is necessary for one player slot. Then we come up on an interesting thing here that I'm calling CFR. You'll see abbreviated CFR, but it is catastrophic fuck-up resistance. I love using this terminology, and I think it is one of the most important factors for determining player power or character power yet again. There is this fundamental thing that happens in Darktide. It's called catastrophically fucking up, and it can happen in many different ways, right? If you're me, it'll happen because you get hit by a crusher overhead that you thought you dodged. And if you're anybody else, it'll happen by, well, a myriad of ways. You can fall off a ledge, or you could have a teammate that falls off a ledge, you could pull a demon host accidentally, you could, I don't know, stand in fire too long. Any number of ways that things go badly very quickly, that's a catastrophic fuck up. And generally, that is how you lose 9 games out of 10 in Darktide. You almost never lose to the fact that the game is like wearing you down. Oh man, we're taking like chip damage, we don't have a health kit, we're not going to make it to the next health station, we're going to start getting downed. Generally, what happens is everybody just gets clusterfucked all at once. You take a burster to the group, one person gets instantly wiped by a crusher overhead. Catastrophic fuck-up resistance insulates you against those instances. It either prevents them from ever happening, or it has abilities or capabilities or traits that can bring you back from the brink, bring you back from a position where you were on the losing foot and put you into an advantageous position. This can take the form of talents, it can take the form of access to certain weapons and tools or abilities. All of those things are valid when we're considering catastrophic fuck-up resistance. There are some classes that have tons of this, by the way, and there's there's one specific class who has pretty much negative this, the lowest you could possibly go, 1 out of 10, because they can catastrophically fuck up all by themselves without any help from the enemies at all. Then we finally have our 5-point category. This is kind of the runner-up category. I didn't want to award a ton of points for this because it's not all that tied to character power, not as much as the other stuff on the list is. This is synergies, utilities, and flexibilities. So if you are a character class that can play a myriad of roles, a support, a DPS, a tank, a specialist killer, a boss killer, if you can do all of that, you're a flexible class. The more you can offer on different builds and the more synergies, the more complements you have when you're mixing into the group that might have different character types on it, the more you are going to have in this category. And I don't think this is directly related super one-to-one with player power or with character power, but it is something to consider, because while you can't play every different facet of one class at once, you can't play both a support and a DPS zealot at the same time, you can have that option, which will inherently kind of does make the class a little bit more powerful on the whole. So, with that being said, hopefully you've got your predictions down in the comment, and we're going to start going over these bad boys one by one, starting with our least powerful class this time around. First of all, I want to say, all of these classes are perfectly fine, okay? There is a big power gap. There's a big power gap between our lowest couple and our highest. But that doesn't mean that these classes aren't viable and aren't usable in Havoc. Players are clearing Havoc with them all day, every day. It's just that there is like an okay class, there's a better and best set of classes. And that's how I want you to look at this. There's no worst in this category. So the lowest ranking class, the one that I think needs the most help and is in the weakest position this time around, is our dear friend, the Veteran. The Veteran is a whipping boy for Fat Shark at this point. They are taking L after L. They've had Survivalist nerfed several times. They are potentially getting the Plasma Gun nerfed in the near-ish future. It seems like the writing on the wall is there for that dang thing. This class is more or less a glorified Aura bot at this point. They provide a passive ammo income for the team, and they also provide gold toughness. Outside of those two things, this class might as well be literally any other class with 0 talents allocated. So this is something I'm going to reiterate several times when talking about the veteran, but everything that he does currently outside of his shout ability and his ammo regeneration is something another class, specifically one class, does a lot better, and also brings with him a myriad of other functions that you'd want on a team instead of the veteran. For the time being, the veteran is clinging to relevance because of his ultimate ability, but I'd like you to, for the exercise at hand here, imagine the power level of each of these characters as we go through them if you stripped away their highest performing ability and their highest performing weapon, and that should give you a better idea of the median power level of these classes. The veteran, I ranked his horde clear at a 3 out of 5. It's not terrible. It's kind of in the middle. He does have shredder frag grenades. He does have a plasma gun. He has, the ability to melee with the rest of them. But there's nothing that's really stand out about his horde clear. His boss damage also sort of falls in the same category. He does have things like focus target if you choose to bring it. You can also play as a recon las gun veteran with the burn recon, which will do good boss damage. But again, there's nothing in his kit that is completely sort of owns bosses like some other classes do. Things that demolish bosses are like Skull Crusher and Stagger potential. Those things, if your class has access to them, especially if they're on your best weapons, are big bonuses to boss killing. Survivability, I rank him squarely a 5 out of 10. The reason I'm ranking him right in the middle for survivability is because his survivability is 100% inherently tied to his ultimate. If he has his ultimate up, he's pretty much invincible, right? With gold toughness up and with catch your breath, you can be regenerating gold toughness as long as you haven't been attacked directly by a melee recently, and that can make you incredibly hard to kill. However, if you are caught in a situation where you don't have your shout up, and especially if your toughness ever dips below 75%, you therefore lose the effects of Iron Will, one of your biggest toughness damage reduction talents, and then you also are going to be very vulnerable without that gold toughness on the bar. The veteran has probably the lowest ability in the entire game to regenerate his toughness. He only is able to get toughness back on getting melee kills, or about a paltry 5% every time he does get a kill if you have a certain talent slotted. Most of the other toughness regenerating abilities are not on the main path, save catch your breath, as previously mentioned, which is a good regenerative effect, but he doesn't have large burst regeneration, which is something that can really save you in this game outside of his ultimate, which, albeit being on a short cooldown, can be off cooldown sometimes, and that is when you tend to find yourself in some pretty big trouble. Speaking of being in trouble, his catastrophic fuck-up resistance. I rate him at a 5 out of 10 here. This isn't a bad rating at all. Catastrophic fuck-up resistance for the veteran is namely his decent mobility, his ability to chain together a grenade and a shout to get any number of rescues pretty much. You can keep a boss back and push back the horde, and it can also allow you to clutch a lot of situations. Specifically, having that catch your breath talent that's regenerating toughness is going to allow you to solo a lot better, because it can regenerate toughness outside of the times where you have your ultimate up. But beyond that, he doesn't have a whole lot of tools in his toolkit, and he lacks the potential to just like kill everything all by himself. Killing bosses with this guy, especially captains, is an absolute chore, so I wouldn't want to just solo the world on this class. It would be a pretty bad solo class. Speaking of the carry potential, I guess I skipped over this one, but the carry potential for this class is pretty dang low. It's a 3 out of 10, and that is exactly what I was saying before. Killing bosses by yourself in this class sucks. Killing anything by yourself in this class sucks. He's great at sniping specials, he's great at eliminating elite targets, but he's no better than other classes, and he has a hard cap on how much he can contribute per second. A lot of the other classes, especially the upper classes in this list, can demolish untold hordes every single second. Their best weapons and their best abilities scale with the amount of enemies on screen, and this poor guy can shoot enemies one by one, maybe a couple if they line up for the plasma gun, but that's about it. So you're hard capped on how quickly you can, turn and shoot the next enemy in the head, but that's not really relevant at all with the speed of killing that some of these other classes can do. And he just doesn't have enough presence on the map to like carve a path physically through enemies like a couple of our top of the line characters can. So I would rate him very, very lowly on the carry potential. If I was running a game where I was carrying some newbies to the game, I would probably not be doing the veteran. The veteran is a good character. He can, command the troops forward like a commissar or something, but he's not leading from the front. He's not leading the charge. Then finally, synergies, utilities, and flexibilities. I rate him only a 2 out of 5 on this category. Again, he has a couple of synergies, namely providing gold toughness to the team and providing damage to the team, but he has no other utilities, and his flexibility is terrible. He has one build, more or less. This is a class that has one ultimate, has 1.5 grenades, and 2 keystones available to him. There's pretty much one build in this class, and it's a good build, it's a solid build, but he doesn't really offer anything to the team, especially if you're not bringing the shout vet. He's useless. Like his stealth is the worst ability in the game. It offers nothing to anybody. You're going to get yourself killed with it. Executioner stance just does exactly what you can already do. And speaking of eating the veteran's lunch, there's a new class in the block. I don't know, you might have heard of him. He actually has the whole ultimate of this class wrapped into one of his keystone abilities, which is nuts. It should tell you a lot about where their powers are comparatively. All right, and that's everything for the vet. So if you got that right, give yourself a thumbs up in the comments, I guess. Let's go on to our runner-up in terms of weakest class, and that's going to be the Psyker. I mean, you knew that Psyker and Veteran were going to be the lowest down, right? The Psyker has been my perennial pick for the weakest class, and the Veteran only beat them out this time because the Veteran is just so stale and one note. And if you removed the highest performing weapon and the highest performing ability from the Veteran is dead in the water. The Psyker does have an advantage over the Veteran in that case. The Psyker has 3 relatively viable abilities. They can all be used into high havocs. You can get a lot of damage out of playing as the Psyker. The problem is this class is designed as a glass cannon, and I think there's a little bit too much glass and not quite enough cannon. That being said, its Horde Clear is ranked a 6 out of 5 for me. I think that the Psyker kind of exemplifies what Horde Clear is in this game. They deal with small, numerous threats like no other character can. They can cleave through infinite amounts of Horde and just passively generate tons and tons of damage. And all of this, of course, is because of their sort of flagship weapon, the Purgative Staff. It's called Purgative Staff, right? The Flame Staff, you know the one I'm talking about. That staff single-handedly buoys this class very, very high up in terms of its Horde Clear and damage potential, if you are capable with it, of course. The runner-up weapon for the class, the Void Blast Staff, also has similarly quality Horde Clearing effects. So even if we were to remove that perfect weapon, we still got a good one in the backup slot. Where the class starts to lack is the boss damage. This class is a pain to deal with bosses, even more so than it is for the Veteran, because you have no abilities that can shove back bosses at all or insulate you against their damage, like the gold toughness that Veteran Shout can provide. You are left to your own devices to use your mobility and your movement skills to hopefully keep yourself away from the boss long enough for the flame ticks to wear him down. And that can be a very, very long time, especially in Havoc, where bosses will have 100,000 HP. Flames are amazing and effective at middle to low health targets. Once you start to get onto those really, really high health targets, they might as well not exist anymore, excepting if you can really stack them up with Venting Shriek. So that's why his boss damage is so low. I did give him a 2 here though, because there are certain setups that can pop off some pretty decent boss damage, such as with the Force Greatsword, and I'd wanted to give credit to that. But outside of that, not a whole lot to write home here about the boss damage. Survivability is a 4. This is the lowest I'm going to go in this list, as you might imagine. His survivability is decent, but also on the weaker side of decent. The things that the Psyker has going for him in terms of survivability are high innate abilities to regenerate that the toughness that he has, he can get toughness from both casting and venting his stabs, and from getting crits, which are very, very easy to do in this high crit class. There's lots and lots of ways of regenerating toughness as Psyker, even when you don't necessarily have enemies around, and that is a very, very important trait that several other classes lack. But his toughness overall isn't very tough, so to speak. He has very, very low damage resistance, and so when you start to take damage in this class, you can very easily have it break your toughness and chip into your health. And a few swift mistakes back to back can end up in a down or death for this character. It's something that new players often come up against quite painfully and early on, is that this class is made of paper mache compared to every other class. It doesn't help that he never gets any gold toughness outside of when he's playing with the team, and he is just uniquely vulnerable in that way. He's a squishy little boy, and I don't know if the potential damage that this class has on offer is enough, at least not for the 99% of players. There is a 1% of players who will never ever take any damage with the Psyker, but that same thing could be applied to all classes. If you don't take any damage, then every class has infinite killing potential, right? Your KD, if you never die in any class, your KDA is going to be infinity. So, yeah, the Psyker's survivability is pretty low. That's a roundabout way of saying that. His carry potential, though, is pretty decent. 6 out of 10 for carry potential. That is justified by the fact that the Flame Staff and the Void Blast Staff can just do so much heavy lifting on their own. If you're a skilled Psyker and you're using Vending Shriek and you're playing, you know, an Auric, Maelstrom or something with some friends, you can just clear the whole map for them. You really don't need anyone else there. The only problem you're going to have is if bosses get put on you. That's why I'm only giving him that 6 out of 10, but he's definitely way better at, like, just, you know, instantly annihilating hordes from both the front and the back, way faster than the Veteran is. So 6 out of 10 here. He's again leading from the back. He's like letting the team sort of push forward, but he's carrying by just annihilating everything and doing, you know, 10 times the damage of anybody else on the team. So that's why his carry potential is at 6. But here we go with a catastrophic fuck-up resistance of 1. A lot of people on the live stream were telling me that I should make his CFR -1. This class is uniquely positioned to have some of the worst catastrophic fuck-up resistance possible. He has almost 0 ways of clutching out a situation because he has like no way of getting enemies off of him, right? You have to like use your mobility to get ahead of enemies and reposition in order to get a save, and even then there's probably some sort of goalie enemies who are defending the respawn point, and they'll just interrupt you or murder you outright, and he doesn't really have anything to do in that case. He also has the uniquely terrible ability to just instantly catastrophically fuck himself by overloading his peril. And this is something that even very, very experienced Psykers are doing, so don't give me no guff in the comments and tell me, oh, you know, if you're a good Psyker, you won't do that. I am playing Havoc 40 all day, every day, and I'm still seeing Psykers doing it. So if that's happening, why is it so apparently impossible? So this is an issue for Psykers, obviously. The more hectic things get, the more you are casting, the more likely you're to blow yourself up. And it's a class that is incentivized to ride that line before you blow yourself up, so it's gonna happen. And the problem is that when it does happen, it's almost never a good time for it to happen. Well, there's never really a good time to lose a wound for free, but yeah, it can end a game, and it can just end one of your characters instantly. So he has to lose big points for that, and I have almost never seen a solo Psyker clutch or a clawback from a bad position because he doesn't have any what I call tide turners, like the Veteran Shout, where when you drop this ability, instantly everybody's in a better position than they were a second ago. You can do the bubble, but the bubble can break within 5 seconds and offer you almost nothing. There's tons of other abilities in this game that are like, oh my god, that ability went off, that just saved me. The bubble is not really all that high on that list, and so his CFR is going to remain at 1. For synergies and utilities and flexibilities, I do give him a 3 here, though. His 3 out of 10 rating here comes from the fact that Psychonetic's aura, which is not an aura but rather a talent, is generally really good to have on a team. He does have a 10% cooldown reduction aura, like an actual aura that's very good to have on a team. Bubble is good with the group, and generally having a Flame Staff or a Void Blast Staff around to CC everything is very, very good quality of life for a group. He's got more flexibility in the builds that he can bring for a group than the Veteran does, so he's got to be at least 1 point higher. That's why I'm giving him the 3 out of 5. And that brings the first two little survivors there, what do we call them, rejects, to a close. We've got 21 points for the Veteran and 22 for the Psyker, just narrowly beating him out, but we're going to jump up quite a bit in terms of these ratings with our third place candidate, dead in the middle of the pack. The king has been dethroned, the Zealot, at number 3 here. The middle of the pack now, unbelievable that once the undisputed best class in the game is now only the middle rung in the ladder in terms of power. And this ultimately, is something that weighed on me after I made this decision in my last video, where I said that this Zealot was still better than the Ogryn. I don't think I really fully fundamentally understood the Ogryn's power yet, and that's something that we fully come into now, where players are seeing just how stupid overtuned the Ogryn's damage is and his survivability is. You don't really feel true power until you just WM1 your way through a massively thick horde with the Ogryn. And the Zealot still can't quite do that, right? The Zealot, if you're given a group of 10 Crushers, he just kills the Crushers one by one. He goes up to them and he stabs them with the dueling sword until they're dead. The Ogryn, whenever we talk about the Ogryn, who knows? Will he be first? Will he be second place? We don't know. But the Ogryn would just like body all of them, right? You just bowl them all down, put them on the ground, and beat them to death while they're laying around on the ground. So that's sort of the gap we're talking about here in terms of power. But let's talk about the Zealot while we got the Zealot on the screen. His horde killing capability, I'm putting it again at 3. I think he's pretty much no better than the Veteran. Instead of Shredder Frag Grenades, he instead has maybe his Flame Grenades, or more likely the Flame Thrower. Those are both good horde clear capabilities for the Zealot, but outside of that, he's just a regular dude with a sword who cuts enemies. There's nothing in his kit that makes him uniquely talented at killing hordes, although there is a good amount of stuff in his kit that makes him good at killing bosses. So he does have access to the Bolter, which gives him a point. He does have access to Thunderhammer, which definitely gives him a point. And he's honestly a pretty good boss killer in general because of his finesse talent, which can allow him to riposte for big damage. And of course, you could just always go Shroud Field and bonk the boss for like 50 million. So there's lots of ways you can kill bosses on the Zealot, myriad of ways, and he's a good boss contributor even when you're not going a DPS focus, because Chorus is very good against bosses too. It holds Captain still, and it allows big bosses to get shoved backwards repeatedly. So all that stuff is very valuable when bossing. Got to give the Zealot a 4 out of 5 there. For survivability, he is the easiest 10 out of 10 you'll ever see. This class is stupid invincible. He is, first of all, untouchable. Fastest class in the game, hands down, not even close. He flips around the arena like a little ninja, and he's got so many slides, and his is so fast that good luck for the enemies even hitting him, first of all. But once they even do hit him, this guy has stupid toughness damage reduction, because if he crits at all, he gets 50% off of one talent. Then he's got an aura that provides another 15%. And this guy can regenerate all of his toughness in like a millisecond. All of his abilities regenerate huge bursts of toughness. Shroud Field can give you back 40% over like, what, 3 seconds or something like that. And his charge ultimate gives him 50% back with 2 charges. And of course, Chorus gives you everything you've got and more back. So he's got tons of toughness regeneration there, and more in his killing potential in the tree. And of course, we can't mention his survivability without talking about Until Death, the sort of, central piece to the survivability puzzle, which we'll talk about again with the next category, or for the CFR category. Until Death prevents him from being able to die. So if he does get bursted down, he can just say, nah, and shrug off death once every 2 minutes and regain 25% of his HP off the back end of that. So very good potential for survivability. It's a class where when I am playing with groups, I almost never even have to worry about, oh, will I get blown up here? Anytime I take a single bullet, I just start bullet sliding around everywhere and nothing can hurt me. And then if I do get blown up, well, I mean, I can't die. I have vulnerability every 2 minutes. So yeah, survivability, 10 out of 10. Carry potential, 6 out of 10. This guy can carry from the front or from the middle of the pack, right? He can carry as the DPS if you're going Fury of the Faithful and charging in. He's a great enemy position router. He can get himself deep in there, not have to worry about enemy attackers, and hack up their enemy positions. He's a very, very potent character like that. He's definitely like among the best solo play characters in the game. And when I say soloing, I'm not talking about speedrunning. I'm talking about fighting everything in the level. He is very self-sufficient in that regard, so he can definitely carry without anybody else's support. And he can also just lead from the middle of the pack with chorus, right? You can win games just by being a good chorus uptime and using it at the right time and just invalidating all the ranged enemies by suppressing them and dunking on bosses, completely invalidating bosses. So he's got tons of tools in his kit to carry games, to contribute so heavily to games that other players just can kind of put it into easy mode and just worry about DPSing. But he doesn't have the X factor that really makes him like this crazy carry potential where like enemies don't even get to play the game. They're all laying around the ground. They're all blown up. They're all dead. They're all CC'd. He's tackling every special in the game. So he doesn't get any higher than 6 on a carry potential. For catastrophic fuck-up resistance, though, he is 8 out of 10 here. As we said prior, Until Death is a huge factor in this. He's got just so much ability to evade damage. He's stupid fast, so even bosses can't catch this guy. I have seen more Zealot clutches in this game than anything else, and that is because he can't be killed, he's stupid fast, and he's got plenty of ways of getting the clutch off and getting the pickup on his allies, or, you know, just ignoring a single fuck up if it's himself that's doing the fuck upping. I've fucked up tons on this character, and you know what? Every single time, Until Death prevents me from dying, and I thank it. I thank it for its existence and its service. 07 Until Death. Finally, we've got synergies, utilities, and flexibility at a 2. I think this character is pretty much just exactly where Veteran is at, right? He's got a couple of roles that he can play, and he plays them pretty solid. He's got, his contributions to the team are limited though, and he doesn't really have a whole lot of synergies with people. He's kind of inflexible. He's got like one build with 2 different ultimate choices, and that's about it. So I definitely think that his low synergy, utility, flexibility score is representative of him being an older design for a character class. And here we go, guys. We're into the final 2. These are the ones that people are here to see, and it ultimately comes down to, what will it be? Will it be the Arbites, or the RBB, the newcomer to the block, the newest introduction to the game, who everyone thinks is pretty dang powerful? Him and his dog, will they top the list? Or will it be the Ogren, the big boy, the fan favorite, the underdog who has come from behind to top the charts this time around? Well, I might dismay some of you with this, but at the second place, the second most powerful character in Darktide currently, I am placing the Ogren. The Ogren is an absolute DPS powerhouse with a Horde 5 and Boss 5 killing capabilities. This guy mulches hordes and he doesn't stop. He carries that right into murderizing bosses. He can tenderize them with Skull Crusher. He can stagger them with 2 of his ultimates, and he generally is super hard to beat in this category. In fact, he is not beat in this category by the Arbites, as we'll talk about in a second. So the Ogren is your damage topper in this case, and he has a survivability of 9 out of 10 as well. The only things that can foil an Ogren's survivability are getting trapped, getting chain CC'd by something like a mutant, or as many in Ogren have found out, scattered gunners will do the trick pretty well. Gunners that are outside of your melee range are an absolute pain. Ogren on a close quarters map is a god, but Ogren on an open map starts to have issues because he's a large target and he has no real way of regenerating his toughness when he is not in proximity of enemies. Once you got enemies in your taunt range and you can regenerate toughness off of that, or you can melee them, you're all good. But that one lacking point is what happens is when you are caught out in the open and you have nothing to regenerate toughness on. Then you can get picked apart pretty dang easily, and all of that extra HP you have and all those extra downs you have, they don't count for much when you are getting shot repeatedly by 50 million small gunners. So 9 out of 10 there, still super tanky, but not quite as tanky as Zealot. Carry potential is a 9. This is the pinnacle that we will see for carry potential in this ranking. I can't imagine what a 10 would fucking look like, but the Ogryn is single-handedly capable of taunting the entire level, running forward and dropping grenades at his feet, and just nuking everything to death. He demolishes bosses and captains just by light attacking them. I mean, it only took me like, what, 5 or 6 attempts to solo a 3-Veg Auric Maelstrom with Ogryn on one of the first days of his update. That's how crazy tuned this character is at carrying. So naturally, putting one of these, especially one with a really, really aggressive, like powerful build with the powerful weapons, into a group is gonna take a lot of work off of the shoulders of the other players. He has a ton of carry potential, and you know, you need to look no further than the fact that he can just push his way through hordes. He does not get stuck. He just plows ahead every moment of the day. He leads from the front. That is where the Ogryn is when he is carrying. And we have to give his catastrophic fuck-up resistance an 8 here. He is one of the best clutchers in the game. He is one of the best at turning around a bad situation with a well-timed taunt to pull away the threatening enemies. He can also disrupt enemies with his Rumbler grenade launcher. He can throw grenades. You know, cluster bomb grenades are hugely disruptive and can be used to get all sorts of reses off. And of course, he's got the uniquely good ability of being able to finish interacting with things such as resing while having no stamina. He can take exchange health damage for getting a res off, and that can make all the difference. So yeah, he's definitely really, really high on that CFR rating. The fact that he has so much base health and also 3 wounds means that he is also way harder to kill by surprise, and even if you do take an accidental down, you get 2 more to play around with, and that is a big factor bringing him up that high. And for synergy, utility, and flexibility, I'm ranking him that 4 out of 5. He is one of the most synergistic and powerful classes in the game. Taunt is so good with a myriad of different abilities. I mean, it's so nice to not have enemies attacking you, wouldn't you agree, guys? And of course, his stagger potential, as well as the Skull Crusher he can apply through his best weapon, the Mark III Bully Club, that is all pushing him up in terms of that flexibility. I'm knocking off 1 point here though, because he does have one ultimate ability that I think is pretty dang weak, and that is Point Blank Barrage. If Point Blank Barrage was maxed out and he could also be a gunner Ogryn and contribute that way, he might be a little bit higher, but I think for right now, since he kind of can either play like melee DPS or tank DPS, that's sort of your limitations for the class. And now we have to talk about why Arbites is still just a little bit better. Here's the Arbites scores. You can see that the Arbites ties the Ogryn in scores, 40 to 40. But why am I ranking the Arbites higher? Well, this Ogryn score is based on over 3 months of playing with the Ogryn. This is the maximal Ogryn score that he will ever receive. There is not going to be any new innovation on Ogryn. This is assuming that he's using a Ogrynheimer build, like one of the most powerful, egregiously OP things the game could have. Even, you know, with all of that, the Arbites is still neck and neck with him. And here's the big thing about the Arbites. We still have room to grow. Players don't know how to play him yet. Players don't know the absolute perfect weapon combos and synergies. They're figuring it out day by day, but they're not quite at that peak of understanding yet. And if things get nerfed, if say the Rumbler gets nerfed, you know, for instance, take the Ogryn and take away his best ability Taunt and take away his best gun, the Rumbler. He drops in power precipitously because of that. He would still be very, very good, but those two things are a large factor of his power. Now take the Arbites and do the same thing. Remove the Mark III Arbites Shock Maul and remove, I don't know, the Mark III shotgun or something like that. he still has so many absolutely cracked weapons in his kit. Remove his best ability, I don't know whether you want to consider it Castigator's Stance or the Charge, right? He still has either Castigator's Stance or Charge or Nuncio Aquila. He has 3 killer abilities that are so good and so strong. He has 3 amazing blitzes. He has 2 fucking insane keystones and one that is not super hot on. It's like B tier at best. But like outside of that, this guy has so many avenues of power, and there's almost no wrong way you can build him, right? The thing about the Ogryn is he's as powerful as he's going to be because we've spent all this time figuring out his builds, and now we've got him at his optimal power. He is pinnacle, peak power Ogryn right now. That's what we're assessing. We haven't figured out what the absolute optimal builds are for the Arbites, but I guarantee you that they have a higher cap than what we are seeing right now, excepting for like really, really skilled players. So let's get into his scores. I'm ranking his horde killing and his boss killing at 4 out of 10. He is not as capable as the Ogryn is, obviously, but he does have good ways of deleting hordes with his grenades, with his dog explosion, with his shotguns, obviously. His boss killing is he has Skull Crusher, so that brings him up a lot, and he is limited by, he's got the Bolter, and he's got a lot of boss killing nodes in the tree, but he is limited by not just being able to absolutely body bosses in the same way that the Ogryn can, with like repeatedly staggering them and stuff, but he has zero problem with bosses in general. His survivability, though, is a 10 out of 10, and this is one of the things that I think really ascends the Arbites for me. The Ogryn has a problem with getting chain CC'd, with getting trapped, because he's big. It's a lot harder to make those dodges. And he also can get caught out in the open and not be able to regenerate toughness unless he has some enemies to sort of leech that off of. The Arbites is completely self-sufficient. Just being near the dog, 5% toughness per second. Just pushing 2 times, 5% toughness per second. Using your Castigator Stance, instantly refill all your toughness. Kill any enemy, get 15% of your toughness with the Execution Order Keystone, right? He has, like, no joke, I think you can have one build that has like 8 different ways of regenerating toughness, and none of them require you engaging with enemies in melee at all. Well, some of them do, but then you have just absurd burst toughness regeneration on enemy stagger. You can regenerate up to like 35-40% of your toughness on a single like melee swing with this class, which is absurd even by Ogryn standards, where, you know, we thought that like regenerating 15% of your toughness on a swing was insane. Move over. This guy can burst his toughness back to full in a millisecond without an ability, and then he has 2 separate abilities that can fill his toughness to full like in an instant. And that doesn't even hurt the fact that afterwards, for one ability, all the enemies in front of you are now staggered and laying around on the ground, and for the other ability, they are unable to hurt you because you're in Castigator Stance. So his survivability is definitely a 10 out of 10. Every single one of his abilities either removes the enemy's capability of fighting back at all and gives you full toughness, or it just, constantly regenerates your toughness and just makes you that much harder to kill by giving you damage resistance and giving it over to the whole team. So tons of survivability baked into his kit, and tons of regeneration and toughness elsewhere. Definitely like one of the hardest classes to drop. And that's not even considering one of the things we'll talk about when we get to catastrophic fuck-up resistance. Carry potential is an 8 here. Not quite on Ogryn levels because he can't just completely clobber and bully his way to the level like the Ogryn can, but he's damn close. He is seriously, seriously strong. His capabilities to carry come from the fact that he can run the dog and just... the dog can just act as a second bot on the team that's killing specials and killing gunners while you are worrying about what's in front of you. You never really appreciate how valuable it would be to have a dog until you've got a myriad of small little gunner enemies. For an Ogryn, you'd have to run around and club each one of them to death, or pull out your gun and aim and shoot. The dog just does that for you. And not to mention, the dog can rescue an ally from a grab from a chaos spawn, or a dog, or a charger, and it can eliminate threatening specials before they even have a chance to rear their heads. He's got a ton of carry potential just by having that dog around. And of course, he's got crazy stagger. He's got tons of survivability he can provide to his allies, and he has, he's just such a potent stagger character. So yeah, it's going to give huge carry potential here. Catastrophic fuck-up resistance, 9 out of 10 here, and this is a myriad of factors, right? As we already addressed, every single one of his abilities can be thrown down in a pinch and can either regenerate huge burst of your toughness instantly, or it can start to put you back on that good footing with the whole group with Nuncio Aquila. He also has unparalleled toughness regeneration per second, up to 15% if you're grabbing all the passively regenerating nodes in the tree, or just huge burst off of staggering enemies and killing enemies in close range in general. This guy is unparalleled at how fast he can maybe take a burster hit and then turn around and give himself back to full. The only class that can do it anywhere near as close is like Veteran with Shouting, but this guy has abilities that can do it and with a 20-second cooldown that can be lowered to like 12 seconds. It's insane. And that's not even to mention maybe one of the biggest things that he has for catastrophic fuck-up resistance, True Grit, a oft-overlooked ability until you are in those high havocs, where one mistake can cost you your life. Take a Crusher overhead, you're dead. Take a Sniper, you're dead. Right? Take a Omni Slash or a big, huge like arcing slash from like one of the twins or something, or get blasted by a twin laser gun, you're dead. Take a Burster, you're dead. Right? These things all end your game in a catastrophic way very, very quickly, unless you're using True Grit. And then take a Sniper Bullet, 50 damage. You can take 2 more. take a Crusher overhead, 50 damage. You can take 2 more. So you see what I mean? This can insulate you against death in the same way that Until Death does on the Zealot, but with no cooldown. So if you are playing at the maximal capabilities, this is going to cover the last possible avenue the game has to kill you, which is just, oops, there was a sneaky Crusher overhead you didn't see. If you're a really good player, you most of the time you're not taking chip damage. You're going to take 1 accident per game, and this prevents that from happening. And it is absolutely massive. So we've got that. We've also got things like Rebreather that make it so you can just walk through gas and not even care that it's there. And of course, because he's got shock mines that can stop enemies from piling up and just completely overwhelming the team, you can throw one of those down and put the timer on pause forever while you deal with a big enemy encounter. You can also use the dog's shock disruption. You can use the Arbites grenades, which you get like 40 of per game, to disrupt enemies and get revives. You can Castigator stance and just not even give a fuck about anything for 10 seconds. All of this makes him so resistant to these catastrophic fuck-ups, and he's a very good solo clutch character because he's always got that dog at his side, right? He's got that dog in him. He can take the dog and go to a rescue point and where there's like 2 bulwarks guarding it, and he can have the dog hit one of those bulwarks, hit the other one, stun them both up, get the rescue, no problem. And finally, his synergies, utilities, and flexibilities. This is the most synergistic, most flexible, most utility-laden class we've had as of yet. The dog in itself is so like 3 out of 5 utility, right? He offers synergies for the class with a concussive and stagger potential with Skull Crusher, which is massive for the Ogre and massive for all other characters that want to kill bosses. His flexibility is insane. Every one of his abilities is completely viable and can be used at the highest levels of play. You can find utility whether you are a ranged attacker, melee attacker, all that stuff. And so I have to give him the 5 out of 5 here. I think he is just super well-rounded. There's almost no wrong way to build this guy and not be able to contribute heartily. And here's what I'm going to say in closing on the character. I know a lot of players will be upset that I didn't put Ogre in first place because, big man, he deserves it, right? But this character, this Arbites guy, this RBB, he has untapped potential. He is still, players are still learning how to play him. I believe that give this 2 months, give this 3 months, and look at the state of the game then, and this will be borne out to be true. Players will have learned how to maximally control the dog and have it act as an extra extension of their own abilities, right? They'll be able to kill 4 specials in the time that other classes would be able to kill 2 because of that additional dog factor. And players will go even further with the ability to regenerate grenades and just have that extra attack speed with Lone Wolf. I think that him being a crazy tanky class with the high mobility of a zealot, well, not quite a zealot, but like a veteran or something, puts him in a tier to his own. And he is also a super solid stepping stone for a lot of players who are coming from the other human classes, because he doesn't have that fundamentally different set of skills like Ogren does. So that's what I wanted to say about these guys. I hope you had fun listening to me. I hope you had fun tuning in live on the stream. I decided to re-record it just because I was in my head about it, but here it is in presented form, and let me know down in the comments if you agree or if I'm completely off my rocker yet again. But I love doing this exercise. I can't wait to do this again in 3 months' time or 6 months' time, whatever. Hopefully 6th class by then, maybe. We'll see. But I appreciate you for watching very much, and I'll see you very soon, guys. Mystery out. Bye.